Welcome back to the Senior Health Podcast, the place where we dig deep into the hidden truths about aging, health, and what it really takes to thrive after 60. I'm Dr. John Grant, and if you're watching this right now, whether you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, I want you to stop and really think about one thing. What if the foods you've been avoiding are the very ones your body needs the most? What if something as simple as what you put on your plate could be the difference between foggy mornings and crystal clear thinking, between stiff joints and steady energy, between aging fast or aging strong? Today's episode may surprise you because we're not talking about fancy supplements. We're not talking about miracle pills or expensive routines. We're talking about something far more common and far more misunderstood: carbohydrates. Yes, those three syllables that have terrified health-conscious folks for decades. Cut the carbs, they said. Carbs make you fat. Carbs destroy your memory. Sound familiar? But here's the twist. What if you've been cutting out the wrong ones? What if, after 60, your body doesn't just tolerate carbs? It requires the right ones to protect your brain, your joints, even your emotional balance. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, over 100 years old, still practicing medicine in Japan, still walking daily, still serving patients, and still showing the world what real vitality looks like. If anyone understands the art of living well, not just long, it's him. Let's hear a round of applause. Doctor, I'm beyond grateful to have you back, and I know what we're about to share today may completely rewire how people think about their food.
Thank you, Dr. Grant, and thank you to everyone listening. Yes, what we are about to discuss may feel like a contradiction, but it is the truth. Carbohydrates are not your enemy. They are not the villain. What matters is which carbohydrates you choose and how you prepare them. After 60, your body's needs change. Your metabolism shifts. Your digestion slows. Your brain becomes more sensitive to instability. Blood sugar swings, inflammation, nutritional deficits, and yet many people are depriving themselves of exactly the foods that could help restore balance. In Japan, we have a saying, "Eat with the seasons and the body remembers who it is." Carbs, when chosen wisely, are not just fuel. They are messages. They tell the brain it is safe. They calm the gut. They stabilize the mood. And for many elders, they are the quiet heroes behind long lives filled with presence, strength, and clarity.
That is such a powerful reframing, because I can't tell you how many of my patients, especially here in the West, are afraid of carbs. They're told to cut bread, cut rice, cut fruit, cut anything that isn't a protein or fat. But in doing so, they often feel worse, tired, cold, irritable, even foggy. Exactly. And yet they blame age, not the missing fuel.
Precisely. When the brain is underfed, it does not complain loudly. It whispers. A little more forgetfulness, a little more sadness, a little more stiffness in the knees. But the cause is often quiet too. A missing root, an absent grain, a starch abandoned in the name of dieting. But here's the truth. The body after 60 does not want to starve. It wants to be supported. And there are 4 carbohydrates that do exactly that. Today I will share all 4. And at the end, I will reveal the one that may be the single most powerful food for aging brains that Western diets have nearly forgotten.
I love that. And let me say right now to everyone watching, stay until the end. Because what Dr. Hinohara just hinted at, it shocked even me. It's not a supplement. It's not some exotic powder. It's a simple, affordable carb that could restore strength and mental clarity faster than anything I've seen in practice. So, doctor, without revealing that final one just yet, Walk us into the first, the one you believe every senior should be eating daily, but most aren't.
Let's begin with a food that carries more than just flavor. It carries legacy. In Okinawa, one of the world's most renowned blue zones, there is a root that has quietly fueled some of the longest living, clearest thinking elders on earth. The Okinawan purple sweet potato. Now, I must be clear, this is not a sugary treat. It is not dessert. In these communities, it is not eaten with marshmallows or brown sugar. It is steamed, gently roasted, respected, and in many households it replaces what rises to the mainland. It is the centerpiece.
The centerpiece? Why is that?
Because of what it gives to the brain. These purple roots are rich in anthocyanins, natural compounds shown to protect neurons from oxidative stress. They help calm inflammation in the blood vessels that feed the mind, and they provide a slow, steady release of energy, helping to stabilize blood sugar without sudden spikes or crashes.
That's powerful, especially here in the West, where so many people are told to avoid all starchy foods. Sweet potatoes get lumped into the bad carb category, especially for people watching their glucose levels. But what you're describing sounds like the opposite.
Exactly. But I do want to be thoughtful. Not every person will respond the same way, especially if someone already struggles with insulin resistance or has advanced diabetes. That's why portion size and preparation matter. We're not talking about sweet potato fries dipped in oil. We're talking about half a steamed purple potato, enjoyed slowly as part of a balanced meal. There's science to back this up. A study published in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracked older adults who consumed Okinawan sweet potatoes regularly. They saw not only improved memory scores and reduced inflammation markers, but also better blood pressure stability and enhanced emotional resilience. And this wasn't tested in a sterile lab. These were real people living traditional lives, preparing simple meals in small kitchens.
That's what makes it so compelling. It's not just a supplement in a bottle. It's a root, a warm, grounding, deeply human food, one that's carried generations and might still carry us if we let it back onto our plate. Doctor, that's a beautiful start. Let's keep the momentum going. What's the next misunderstood carb that might actually be part of the solution, not the problem?
The second carbohydrate I encourage seniors to reconsider is barley, specifically what we call mugi in Japan. It's often mixed with white rice in traditional homes, creating a blend called mugi gohan. But this isn't just for texture or taste, it's for function. Barley is rich in beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that slows the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream and helps reduce cholesterol. As we age, our digestive rhythm changes, our insulin sensitivity shifts, and our cardiovascular system becomes more fragile. Barley helps buffer those changes. It supports the gut. It feeds the microbiome. And over time, that gut-brain connection becomes more stable, which means clearer thinking, steadier moods, and fewer blood sugar swings.
That's fascinating, because most people here think of barley as something used in soups or stews, maybe even an old-fashioned grain. They rarely think of it as brain food, but what you're saying reframes it completely. It's a stabilizer.
Yes, and that stability is what many older adults are missing. When the body swings too high and too low, in glucose, in cortisol, in mood, everything feels harder. Barley, when eaten regularly, acts like ballast. It holds things steady. It's not flashy. It doesn't promise miracles, but over time, it quietly builds resilience. I do offer one note of caution. For people with celiac disease or significant gluten intolerance, barley is not suitable. While it contains less gluten than wheat, it still has enough to cause issues in sensitive individuals. But for most older adults, especially those with sluggish digestion, rising cholesterol, or fluctuating energy, mugi is gentle medicine.
That's the kind of wisdom we need more of. Practical, grounded, and respectful of individual needs. And I love that you're not just telling us what's healthy in theory, but what has been lived and seen and practiced over decades. Now I'm curious. What's the third carb on your list that deserves a second chance, especially after 60?
The third is one that's often overlooked because it seems too simple, too humble. But in Japan, we've long embraced it as a daily ally. Short grain brown rice. Not the polished white rice many are used to, but the whole grain version, with the bran and germs still intact. It is earthy, chewy, and far more powerful than people realize. Short grain brown rice contains magnesium, B vitamins, and slow-burning carbohydrates that nourish the nervous system and support neurotransmitter function. Unlike white rice, which digests quickly and offers a sharp rise in glucose, brown rice gives a slow, steady release of energy. That's critical after 60, when even mild fluctuations in blood sugar can lead to brain fog, dizziness, or fatigue.
I've had patients switch from white rice to brown and tell me their energy feels more grounded. But I also hear a lot of resistance. People say brown rice is hard to digest, or that it causes bloating. Is that something you've seen?
Yes, that can happen, especially in people with a weaker digestion or those not used to high fiber grains. But the key is in how it's prepared. In Japan, we always soak brown rice before cooking, often overnight, and rinse it several times. This softens the outer bran layer, reduces phytic acid, and makes the grain much easier to digest. A pinch of sea salt during cooking also helps balance its energy, according to traditional principles. And here's what's interesting. A long-term observational study out of Kyoto University followed over 1,200 older adults and found that those who ate whole grains, particularly brown rice, at least 4 times a week had better glucose control, lower waist circumference, and improved cognitive performance compared to those who favored refined grains.
That's amazing. And again, so doable. You're not asking people to change their diet completely, just to change the quality of what they're already eating. If rice is already part of the routine, it can stay. It just needs to be the right rice. So, doctor, that brings us close to the end of the first half. But I know you've saved the most surprising one for last. The carb that many people have abandoned completely, but that you believe could be one of the most protective, especially for the brain.
Yes, and I hope people will hear this with fresh ears. The final carbohydrate I recommend is warm oats, not instant, not loaded with sugar, but slow-cooked, gently seasoned, and timed to support the body's most delicate systems, especially in the evening hours. Oats are rich in complex carbohydrates that release energy gradually. They contain magnesium, which relaxes the muscles and nervous system, and B vitamins like B6, essential for converting tryptophan into serotonin, the neurotransmitter that helps calm the mind and supports sleep. For seniors, especially those experiencing mood swings, irritability, or restless nights, oats can be a quiet ally.
And that surprises people, because in the US, oats are seen as a morning food, or even worse, just another carb to cut.
Exactly. But when prepared properly, think slow simmered in water or light plant milk with a touch of sea salt or warming spices like cinnamon, oats become medicinal. In Japan, we have always believed in the power of warm, soft food at night. And oats, though not traditional for us, fit that philosophy perfectly. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine showed that a small serving of complex carbohydrates before bed helped older adults fall asleep faster and experience fewer disruptions through the night. Oats were one of the top performing grains.
That's incredible. And it's not hard. It's not some expensive treatment. It's a bowl of comfort.
Yes, but I always offer one reminder: take it in moderation. If you are diabetic or extremely insulin sensitive, even complex carbs at night may require careful portioning. Half a cup cooked is enough, and always avoid the flavored packets. They are filled with hidden sugars and additives that can undo the benefits. This is a healing food, not a dessert.
That's such a vital distinction. It's the how, the when, and the why that make the difference. Doctor, I think what you've just done is open a new door for many people. You've reminded us that not all carbs are enemies. Some are actually medicine when respected. But as always, there's a shadow side. Not every carb deserves a place on the plate, and some may be slowly draining our strength without us even noticing.
Yes, and now it is time we talk about those. The ones that do not nourish but deplete. The carbohydrates that look harmless, even comforting, but that quietly sabotage the aging body, especially after 60.
Let's begin. What's the first carb that must be approached with real caution, or even cut out completely?
The first carbohydrate I urge seniors to avoid, perhaps more than any other, is white sandwich bread. It's found in nearly every pantry. It's soft, familiar, and often marketed as enriched or fortified, which gives the illusion of health. But after 60, this bread becomes one of the most disruptive daily foods you can consume. Why? Because it's made from highly refined wheat flour, often bleached, stripped of fiber, and then artificially enhanced with synthetic vitamins that the aging gut doesn't absorb well. Instead of providing steady energy, it triggers a sharp spike in blood sugar, followed by a crash. That crash doesn't just affect energy levels. It fuels inflammation in the joints. It clouds the brain. It even interferes with mood regulation and sleep.
I've seen this firsthand. Patients who think they're starting their day with something light, a piece of toast, a sandwich, and yet they come in complaining of foggy mornings, achy knees, and sudden energy drops by mid-morning. And they never suspect the bread.
Exactly. And it's not just what's missing in white bread, it's what's added. Preservatives, emulsifiers, even hidden sugars. Over time, these ingredients strain the liver, disrupt digestion, and can worsen insulin resistance. Now, a small note of balance. If someone is healthy, metabolically stable, and eats white bread occasionally as part of a larger fiber-rich meal, it may not cause harm. But for most people over 60, especially those with pre-diabetes, joint pain, or brain fog, it is simply not worth the cost.
That's a sobering truth, because this is a food many people eat daily, even without thinking. It's just there. And yet it might be silently working against everything they're trying to fix.
Yes. And when you remove it, even for a week, the change can be profound. Clearer thoughts, more stable energy, fewer cravings. White sandwich bread is not just empty. It's actively confusing the body.
All right, doctor. That's one down. What's the next carb on your never list? The one that's often dressed up as healthy, but maybe just as harmful.
The second carbohydrate I advise seniors to be extremely cautious with is multigrain bread, especially the kind sold in mainstream supermarkets. On the surface, it appears healthy. It's darker. It has seeds on top. The label might say 7 grains or made with whole wheat. But these words are often misleading. What's actually inside? In most cases, refined white flour remains the primary ingredient. The grains are often processed, fragmented, or added in such small amounts that they provide none of the fiber or nutrients the label implies. Worse still, these breads are frequently sweetened with molasses, sugar, or honey to create a hearty flavor, while caramel coloring gives the illusion of whole grain.
I can't tell you how many patients I've seen switch from white bread to multigrain thinking they've made a huge upgrade. They come in proud, and honestly, who can blame them? The marketing is slick. The bread looks rustic, but then we check their labs. The inflammation markers are still high. The morning glucose is still elevated.
Yes, and this is one of the most frustrating deceptions. Because intention matters. These people are trying. They believe they're making better choices. But the food industry is clever. And unless you read the ingredient list carefully, you may be falling into the same trap. One study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that seniors who ate processed multigrain products had no better glycemic or cardiovascular outcomes than those eating white bread, because in both cases, the core grain was still refined.
And what about real whole grain bread, the kind that uses sprouted grains or sourdough fermentation?
That's an excellent distinction. True sprouted or fermented breads, especially when made without additives or added sugars, can be a wonderful source of slow-digesting carbs and gut-supportive nutrients. But again, preparation and ingredients are everything. Multigrain is not a guarantee. In fact, it often signals a shortcut.
So for someone listening, if they're buying bread and want to make a truly good choice, the label needs to start with something like 100% whole grain, and there should be no added sugars or coloring.
Correct. Look for transparency, fewer ingredients, and if the bread doesn't go stale within a week, it's probably not bread.
That's 2 down. What's the third carb that seniors should think twice or even 3 times before putting on their plate?
The third carbohydrate I caution seniors against is breakfast cereal, especially the boxed, ready-to-eat kind that claims to be heart-healthy, fortified, or low-fat. These cereals are a disaster in disguise, highly processed, stripped of natural fiber, then sprayed with synthetic vitamins and minerals that are poorly absorbed by the aging digestive system. But the worst part is how fast they digest. Within minutes of eating these cereals, blood sugar spikes, sometimes higher than a slice of cake. That triggers a surge of insulin, then a crash. And that crash is what leaves many older adults feeling anxious, shaky, irritable, or exhausted by mid-morning.
And yet these cereals are everywhere. I have patients who genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. They'll tell me, "Doc, I only eat bran flakes," or "I switched from sugary cereal to corn flakes." But they're still hungry an hour later, still tired, still inflamed.
Exactly. And this isn't just anecdotal. A 2018 study in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society tracked cereal consumption in older adults and found a clear correlation between high glycemic breakfast cereals and elevated fasting insulin, increased abdominal fat, and even reduced memory scores over time. And here's what most people don't realize. Even the cereals labeled as high fiber often contain more sugar than you'd expect. They're coated, glazed, or blended with dried fruit that's been treated with syrups and preservatives.
That's eye-opening. So many people see cereal as a light way to start the day, but it sounds like it's doing exactly the opposite of what an aging body needs.
Yes, it's a false start. You're flooding the system with sugar and then asking your brain to focus, your joints to move, and your energy to remain stable. It's not realistic. Now, I always advise this. If someone truly enjoys cereal, it must be treated as a base, not a meal. Add chia seeds, flax seeds, unsweetened almond milk, and a scoop of protein, and cut the portion in half. But even better, replace it with warm oats or a savory breakfast like steamed rice and egg. The difference is profound.
We've covered 3 now. 1 more to go. The final carb you believe seniors should avoid if they want to protect their brain, joints, and metabolism. What is it, doctor?
The 4th, and perhaps the most insidious, is refined pastries and sweet-baked goods. I'm talking about muffins, croissants, danishes, and those little breakfast bars that promise whole grain but are packed with sugar and processed flour. These are not breakfast, they are blood sugar bombs. And for people over 60, they are one of the fastest ways to accelerate inflammation and cognitive decline. What makes them so dangerous is not just the sugar, though that alone is problematic. It's the combination of sugar, refined flour, processed oils and additives. This mix spikes insulin, fuels visceral fat, and triggers inflammation in the brain and joints. For seniors, that can mean more memory lapses, more stiffness, and deeper energy crashes later in the day.
I think that hits home for a lot of people. I've had patients tell me, it's just a small muffin with my coffee, or I only have a pastry once in a while. But once in a while turns into most mornings, and suddenly their fasting glucose is up. Their knees are aching and they don't know why.
Exactly. And the effects are often delayed. You might feel fine in the moment, but over time, that muffin becomes part of a cycle. Poor energy, poor sleep, and poor recovery. One study published in the Journals of Gerontology found that older adults with high intake of refined pastries had significantly higher levels of CRP, a key marker of inflammation, and scored lower on memory recall tests. And this was independent of their weight. That's the key. It's not just about how you look, it's about how your body responds, especially your brain.
That's a critical point, because many of these foods are normalized. They're sold in hospitals, retirement centers, even healthy cafes. But what we're hearing from you is clear. After 60, there's simply less room for error.
Yes, and I never want to shame anyone. Food is emotional, it's cultural, but knowledge is power. And once you understand how these foods affect the body, especially one that's aging, you have the opportunity to make a change. Even if you don't remove them completely, reducing their frequency can have a powerful impact.
So now we've come full circle. 4 carbohydrates that can heal and 4 that can harm. Doctor, what final message would you leave our listeners with as they rethink their relationship with carbs in this next chapter of life?
Carbohydrates are not your enemy, but your body, especially after 60, is more sensitive to what you feed it. Choose carbs that remember their roots, carbs that nourish slowly, speak softly, and fuel restoration, not chaos. Eat with wisdom and your body will return the favor.
That's the heart of it right there. Dr. Hinohara, thank you for your time, your clarity, and your centuries-deep insight. And to everyone listening, the next bite you take is a choice. Make it count.